You've whispered words in the silence of night, lit candles, held hope in your chest for years, and yet nothing seemed to change. Many carry this quiet ache. Why do prayers go unanswered? It is not because you are unworthy, nor because the universe is deaf. The truth is gentler and far more mysterious. For centuries, hidden within Hermetic wisdom and the teachings attributed to Thoth, there has been a code, a vibrational key, forgotten by most, remembered by a few. A key that explains why some words fall flat, while others ripple through reality itself. Today, that hidden code will be revealed, not as abstract theory, but as a living practice you can begin to embody. Stay with me, and together we'll unlock how prayer was always meant to work, not as begging, but as awakening the frequency that makes the universe respond. Have you ever sat in the dark, whispering a prayer you desperately wanted answered, and felt the silence press back even harder? Maybe it was for healing, maybe for love, maybe for a break when life seemed too heavy. You gave it everything: words, tears, devotion, and yet nothing changed. The night stayed quiet, the world stayed the same, and deep inside, the quiet question rose: why won't the universe hear me? That ache is not yours alone. Generations have carried it. From pews to temples, from bedside whispers to desperate cries in the wilderness, humanity has wondered why prayers seem to vanish into thin air. And when they go unanswered, the blame always turns inward. Maybe I didn't believe enough. Maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe I've failed. But what if the failure wasn't yours? What if the whole system of prayer, as most of us were taught, was missing its heartbeat? The truth is, prayer isn't measured by how many times you repeat the words or how intensely you plead. It isn't about stacking up syllables in the hope that one more repetition tips the scales. Prayer is measured in vibration. The universe doesn't respond to the outer shell of your words. It tunes itself to the frequency hidden beneath them. Picture this. You're trying to start a fire with wood that's been drenched in rain. You strike the match. The flame flares for an instant, then smolders out into smoke. You can strike another match, and another, but the fire never catches. That's what happens when we pray with words that don't match the vibration we carry inside. The smoke is there, the effort is real, but the flame never ignites. You can say, "I am abundant," but if your chest tightens with fear over bills and debts, the frequency you're sending out isn't abundance, it's lack. You can declare, "I am loved," but if loneliness is the drumbeat under your ribs, the vibration you release is isolation, not connection. And the universe, like an unflinching mirror, reflects that vibration back. Not because it wants to deny you, but because it cannot give what you are not truly embodying. This is the invisible error, the hidden gap between what we speak and what we truly feel. And it's the reason so many prayers fall flat, leaving only the sting of silence. But here's the awakening. You were never the problem. The fire didn't refuse you. You were simply taught to light it with wet wood. No one told you that alignment, thought, emotion, and word moving together in the same current is the true spark. Without it, prayer dissolves into static. With it, prayer becomes a living force that bends reality itself. So if you've been haunted by unanswered prayers, release the guilt. You haven't failed. You were never unworthy. You were only missing the code, the hidden design that turns smoke into flame. And as we go deeper, you'll see that this code isn't locked away in temples or guarded by ancient priests. It's already inside you, waiting for the moment you learn how to strike the match the right way. There is an ancient law, whispered in temples and etched into emerald stone, that carries a truth so simple and yet so powerful it can bend the shape of your life. The Hermetic law says, "As above, so below. As within, so without." For centuries, seekers have repeated those words like poetry. But what do they really mean? They mean that the universe is not an outside force you're trying to convince. It is a mirror, a reflection, a vast field of energy that takes the frequency you carry inside and translates it into form. If you carry the vibration of scarcity, the world echoes back empty hands. If you carry the vibration of gratitude, the world reflects back, blessings multiplied. The law doesn't waver, the universe does not argue. It only responds. This is why prayer, in its truest form, isn't about begging for something to arrive. It's about aligning with the frequency of already having it. When you stand in the vibration of fulfillment, the universe bends around you. It obeys, not because you forced it, but because it has no choice but to reflect the vibration you have become. Think about how a tuning fork works. Strike one note, and any nearby fork attuned to the same pitch will begin to vibrate. The vibration leaps through the air, invisible, unstoppable. That's what happens when your inner state, the thought you think, the emotion you feel, the words you speak, resonate as one. The universe vibrates in sympathy, rearranging itself to match you. But here is the key most people miss. The universe does not respond to words alone. You can say, "I am abundant," 1,000 times, but if your inner song is still trembling with fear, the fork never rings. The Hermetic wisdom teaches us coherence. That is the secret word, coherence. Thought, emotion, and word in harmony, like instruments tuned to the same pitch. Imagine for a moment a person walking into a room. They say nothing, yet everyone feels their presence. Some people carry an aura of peace, and the air softens around them. Others radiate tension, and even their silence makes people uneasy. That presence is vibration. It is the invisible law of as within, so without, in action. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to prove it. You only have to embody it. So, how do you make the universe obey? You stop asking as a beggar and start living as a receiver. You walk as though it's already done. You breathe as though the blessing is already here. You speak, not with hope, but with the authority of one who knows. The moment you step into that vibration, life begins to shift. People you never expected call your name. Opportunities brush against you like wind. Doors open, not because you kicked them down, but because the vibration you carried was the key that unlocked them. And here's the part that should fill you with hope. This is not a gift reserved for saints, prophets, or mystics. It is not locked away in pyramids or guarded by secret societies. It is a law of existence, available to anyone who dares to align with it. Every person alive has a frequency, and every frequency calls something back. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know every ritual or speak every ancient word. You only have to choose in this moment to begin aligning the inner with the outer. That is why Thoth's metaphysical prayer isn't a collection of sacred syllables. It is a state of being, a shift from "I hope" to "I am," a shift from longing to living. The universe does not obey hesitation, but it does obey coherence. When you become what you seek, the seeking ends, and the manifestation begins. So remember this, your prayer is not waiting to be heard, it is waiting to be embodied. When you walk in the frequency of already received, the Hermetic law ensures that reality has no option but to reflect it. This is not philosophy, it is the mechanics of creation, and the moment you practice it, even once, you will feel the universe move. Step with me now into a world lit not by electricity, but by torches flickering against stone walls, where the air smells of incense and sand. Here, in the temples of ancient Egypt, the priests and seekers whispered truths that were never meant for the marketplace. They called it sacred science, a spiritual technology that turned sound into creation. In the Papyrus of Ani, one of Egypt's most treasured texts, there is a line that says to name is to create. To call something forth with the tongue was to bring it into existence, not as metaphor, but as literal power. For them, the spoken word was the chisel of reality, carving matter out of the invisible. The ancients didn't treat prayer as a hopeful plea tossed into the heavens. They treated it as an act of architecture, a building of form in the unseen. At the center of this vision stands Thoth, the keeper of wisdom, the scribe of the gods, the one who recorded the balance of all things. He was not only a deity of writing and language, but the very embodiment of vibration, the bridge between thought and manifestation. In the mystery schools of Egypt and later Greece, his teaching was clear: words are frequencies, and frequencies shape the universe. To misuse them was dangerous. To align them with truth was divine. Now pause for a moment and remember how another ancient text begins. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Do you hear the echo? Across cultures and across centuries, the truth remained the same. Reality itself begins with vibration, with sound, with the creative word. Whether inscribed on papyrus, spoken by prophets, or carved into the emerald tablet, the wisdom pointed to the same law. Sound is the seed of worlds. When you prayed in those temples, you weren't just saying words. You were entering a chamber designed to amplify resonance. The ceilings curved like the inside of an instrument, walls etched with hieroglyphs that vibrated meaning into the air. The body became the instrument, the breath was the wind, and the prayer was not asking, but commanding an alignment between human vibration and cosmic order. That is why the ancients guarded this knowledge so carefully. They believed the unprepared mind could misuse it, turning sacred sound into chaos. But those who were initiated understood the voice, the breath, the inner vibration. These were not small things. They were the levers of creation. And here is where myth becomes invitation. You don't have to stand inside a stone temple along the Nile to access this technology. The temple is you. Your body is the chamber. Your words are the chisels. The same wisdom Thoth preserved, the same truths written into the papyrus of Ani, still hum in the fibers of your being. So when you speak in prayer, remember you are doing more than reciting syllables. You are awakening a lineage that stretches from the first scribes of Egypt to the very heartbeat of creation itself. You are standing inside a story that began before history, where words were not symbols but sparks, igniting the hidden fire of reality. The ancients called it sacred. Today we might call it vibrational science, but the essence has not changed. Sound is power, word is creation, and prayer, when spoken in alignment, becomes the very act by which the universe awakens. If ancient wisdom feels like a faraway temple, then let this part be the doorway you can step through right now, because the secret Thoth and the mystery schools preserved is not abstract. It can be reduced to a simple, living formula that you and I can use today. They called it the triad of creation: thought, emotion, and word. Three forces, like three strings of an instrument, that when tuned together, produce the music the universe must obey. Let's begin with the first thought. Think of thought as a seed. Not every idea you entertain has power to manifest. Passing worries, scattered daydreams, random flashes, those are like seeds thrown on concrete. They don't take root. But when you hold a clear, focused thought, an image of what you choose to see in your life, that is the seed planted in the soil of reality. It must be specific, not vague, not "I want to be happy someday," but a vivid picture of the kind of joy you mean, sitting at a dinner table with loved ones, or holding the keys to a home you've dreamed of. Thought provides the blueprint. It sketches the architecture of what could be. But a seed on its own dries out. That's where emotion enters. Emotion is the water, the life force, the nourishment that makes the seed swell and crack open. Without feeling, thought remains sterile. You can say, "I am wealthy" 100 times, but if inside you are gripped by fear, scarcity, or disbelief, the soil is poisoned. Conversely, when thought is saturated with true feeling, gratitude, joy, relief, peace, then the seed comes alive. In those ancient chambers, priests didn't just recite words. They summoned emotion into their chest, breath, and bones. They knew that the universe responds not to empty syllables, but to the living current of feeling behind them. And then comes the third element: word. Word is the activation key. If thought is the seed and emotion is the water, Word is the hand that presses it into the soil. Words shape vibration, give form to feeling, and declare what is hidden within. This is why the ancients called word logos, the principle that orders chaos into cosmos. Words said without thought are noise. Words said without emotion are hollow. But when word joins with clear thought and embodied emotion, it becomes the command the universe cannot ignore. Think of a musician. One string may produce a sound, two strings may create harmony, but it is when all three vibrate in tune that a song becomes whole, unmistakable, undeniable. The triad of manifestation works the same way. Thought, emotion, and word each carry vibration, but when aligned, they generate a signature frequency that reality locks onto, like a tuning fork, calling another to resonate. And here's where clarity becomes empowerment. If you've wondered why prayers go unanswered, the reason may be that one leg of the triad is missing: a seed without water, a word without feeling, a feeling without form. Each piece must be there, or the vibration is fractured. But when they converge, you step into coherence. The universe responds not because you begged, but because you matched its law. So the next time you pray, or affirm, or visualize, remember this. Don't just think it, feel it. Don't just feel it, say it. Don't just say it. Think it with clarity. These three must move as one breath, one pulse, one declaration. When you do this, you are not merely asking the universe, you are speaking its language. The ancients called it sacred science. Today, we might call it energetic alignment. But whatever the name, the truth is simple. When thought, emotion, and word become one, the universe has no choice but to echo back what you have declared. If the triad of thought, emotion, and word is the formula, then the next question is, how do you live inside it? This is where the mystery schools revealed something simple yet radical, what they called praying from the end. It means no longer standing outside of what you desire, hoping it might arrive. It means stepping into the feeling of it already being yours and letting that vibration shape everything you do. Think about how often prayer is framed as a future request. I hope this happens. I pray that someday I'll see it. But hope keeps the desire out in front of you, just far enough away to remain unattainable. The ancients taught a different word, not I hope, but I am. That shift changes everything. I am healed. I am loved. I am abundant. These declarations are not wishful thinking. They are vibrational codes. They teach the body, the heart, and the mind to align with what you have already received in the unseen, so that the seen must eventually match it. This is what vibrational coherence means. It's when your thoughts, emotions, and words no longer pull in different directions, but stand together as one current. And when you live as if when you embody what you seek, the universe begins to reorganize itself around you. Opportunities appear that you didn't plan. People cross your path who hold the missing piece. Circumstances shift with uncanny timing. What looked like coincidence reveals itself as alignment. One way to practice this is through vivid imagination, not fantasy, but rehearsal. Each day, close your eyes and step into the scene of the wish fulfilled. Feel the texture of the moment, the weight of the pen as you sign the contract, the warmth of a hand clasped in reconciliation, the quiet relief of opening a door to the home you dreamed of. Let those sensory details flood your body until you can't tell whether it is memory or vision. That state is coherence. That state is prayer in action. Another way is to carry it into ordinary life. If you were already the person you long to be, how would you stand? How would you walk into a room? How would you speak to strangers, to loved ones, to yourself? When you dress in the morning, can you choose clothes as the version of you who has already arrived? When you spend money, can you do it with the steadiness of someone who knows abundance is flowing, not draining? Each gesture, each choice, each tone of voice becomes a declaration. The power of this practice is that it doesn't wait. You don't postpone joy until a breakthrough happens. You taste it now. even in small ways. That taste shifts your vibration, and your vibration calls the future to meet you. Desire no longer burns as absence. It glows as presence. You live as if, and slowly, then suddenly, life bends to reflect it. So remember, prayer is not about pleading for the world to change. It is about changing the state from which you live. When you walk, speak, and breathe as the one who already has, the universe has no choice but to answer in kind. There is a reason why so many affirmations fall flat, why repeating, "I am abundant," sometimes feels hollow, why prayers echo back in silence. It's not because the words are wrong, it's because the self speaking them has not yet changed. If the one declaring still vibrates as a beggar, pleading, doubting, waiting, then even the most beautiful words collapse under the weight of that vibration. The universe is not fooled by language. It listens to the state beneath the language. This is what the ancient teachers meant when they spoke of the self that begs. It is the identity that is always reaching but never arriving, always looking at life through the lens of lack. You know this voice. It whispers, "Maybe it will never happen. Maybe I don't deserve it. Maybe I'm not enough." And yet, you try to paste over it with hopeful words. That's like covering a cracked wall with paint. The fracture is still there, waiting to show through. The answer, though difficult, is also liberating. That old self must die. Not the body, not the soul, but the identity built on scarcity and fear. The mystics said it this way: "Unless you are born again, you cannot see the kingdom." They were not speaking of a physical death, but of the surrender of an identity that no longer serves you. You cannot manifest abundance if you still wear the cloak of the beggar. You cannot live love if you still see yourself as unloved. You cannot stand in power if you cling to powerlessness. This death feels uncomfortable because the beggar self is familiar. It has lived with you for years, maybe decades. It is woven into habits, memories, and wounds. To release it is to step into the unknown, and the unknown can feel terrifying, but it is also the threshold of every transformation. Just as the seed must break open to let the sprout emerge, your old identity must crack so the new self can breathe. The breaking is not failure, it is birth. And here is the healing truth. You do not have to destroy the beggar self through force. You release it by refusing to feed it. Each time you stop rehearsing scarcity, stop indulging the inner monologue of never enough, you starve it of energy. Each time you choose gratitude instead of complaint, self-respect instead of shame, presence instead of fear, you allow the old self to dissolve. Slowly, it loses its grip. Slowly, the voice grows quiet. When that silence arrives, something new awakens. You begin to feel the presence of the self that does not beg, the self that simply is. It doesn't plead for love because it knows it is love. It doesn't chase abundance because it lives from abundance. It doesn't fear the future because it has already entered the state of fulfillment. This rebirth isn't loud or dramatic. It is subtle, like the morning light creeping into a dark room. And yet, it changes everything. So if your prayers have failed, it is not a sign of rejection. It is a sign that the beggar self is still speaking. The invitation is to let it die gently, like exhaling an old breath you no longer need. Trust that what replaces it will not be emptiness, but fullness. Trust that when you let go of who you are not, you make space for who you truly are. The death of the beggar self is not the end of you. It is the beginning of you. And when that rebirth comes, your prayers will no longer sound like cries in the dark. They will resonate as commands of light, clear, coherent, and answered. Every sacred tradition has whispered of it. The Hebrews spoke of entering your room and closing the door. The Egyptians carved chambers deep within stone temples. The mystics of every age hinted at an inner sanctum where the noise of the world could not follow. But here is the truth. The secret chamber is not made of walls or stone. It is a state of vibration, a sanctuary you carry within your own being, waiting to be entered. To step into this chamber, is not about withdrawing into caves or monasteries, though some seekers chose that path. It is about withdrawing your energy from the endless chatter of the outer world, the distractions, the doubts, the constant grasping, and gathering it inward. Imagine closing a door, not on people, but on the static of fear, the voices of scarcity, the mechanical rituals that no longer breathe life. Behind that door, you discover the silence where the universe begins to listen. This is the true meaning of prayer as the ancients understood it. Not a performance, not words repeated by rote, but a shift in vibration so complete that you enter a different field of reality. In the chamber, there is no begging, no waiting, no bargaining. You are not hoping the divine will one day hear you. You are aligning with the divine that has always been here. In this stillness, the line between your voice and the universe's voice dissolves. They are one sound, one resonance. But here lies the warning. Mechanical repetition cannot open this door. You can say affirmations 1,000 times, and yet if your state remains unchanged, the chamber will remain locked. It is not the length of prayer that matters, but the depth of surrender. It is not the number of words, but the vibration that carries them. Think of it like music. A single note, played in harmony, can open the heart more than an hour of noise. When you touch this chamber, something extraordinary happens. You feel peace wash over you like a tide, not because all your problems have been solved, but because in that space you are no longer defined by them. You are resting in the essence of being itself. Time slows. The frantic grasping loosens. Gratitude rises naturally, not forced but flowing. And in that state, manifestation is no longer effort, it is reflection. The universe reflects back the purity of the vibration you carry. This is why the teachers of old spoke in whispers, why they guarded this knowledge like treasure. Because once you know the way to the chamber, nothing outside can hold the same power over you. You are no longer chasing signs. You are living inside the source. You do not need to knock, because you realize you were never outside to begin with. The secret chamber of consciousness is not hidden from you. It is hidden in you. And when you learn to enter it, when you let the outer world fade and step into that inner stillness, you carry the doorway everywhere you go. In the marketplace, in the quiet of night, in the storm of doubt, you can close the door and return. And every time you do, you emerge with more light, more alignment, more life. Imagine if prayer was not something you did for 5 minutes at dawn or whispered before bed, but something you carried with you through every breath of your day. That is the ancient secret often overlooked. Prayer was never meant to be confined to ritual. It was meant to become a living rhythm, a state of being that infuses your entire life. To live in prayer state means your posture, your breath, even your smallest gestures speak the vibration of already is. The way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you look at others, each one becomes a declaration that what you desire is already unfolding. You no longer need to declare with words alone, because your whole being is saying it louder than any sentence could. Think of your breath. Most people breathe shallow, carrying the vibration of anxiety. But when you slow down, breathing deeply and steadily, you are teaching your nervous system to live in trust. This simple act is prayer in motion. Or consider your body language. When you carry yourself with gratitude, shoulders open, eyes lifted, you are silently affirming, I walk as one who already has. That vibration speaks directly to the universe. Your environment too can become an altar. The ancients understood this. They aligned their temples to the stars because they knew environment amplifies vibration. For you, it might be as simple as placing a candle where you work, arranging your home in a way that feels abundant, not cluttered or desperate. Each object then echoes your inner alignment. A tidy room, a lighted space, a word of thanks whispered over a meal. These are the daily rituals that turn life into prayer. Gratitude is perhaps the simplest and most powerful practice. Not forced gratitude, but genuine recognition of what already is. When you give thanks for the chair you sit on, the food before you, the breath in your lungs, you are stepping into the very frequency that unlocks more. This is why the mystics said, "Give thanks as if it's already done." Gratitude is the soil where manifestation grows effortlessly. Living in prayer state does not mean you never struggle, never feel doubt, never face hardship. It means that in the midst of those moments, you return to the state again and again. You take a breath, adjust your posture, whisper thanks, and realign. Over time, this becomes second nature, like returning to a song you know by heart. And when this happens, reality begins to align without strain. Opportunities appear not because you begged harder, but because your vibration drew them. People show up who match your frequency. Solutions rise that once seemed invisible. The prayer no longer needs to be spoken because you are living inside it. This is the true meaning of becoming a living prayer. Your life itself becomes the affirmation, the declaration, the offering. You are no longer asking, you are being. And in that state, the universe cannot help but reflect it back to you. If there is one doorway that opens more quickly than any other, it is gratitude. Not the casual thank you spoken out of habit, but the deep current of reverence that wells up when you recognize life itself as a gift. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it is a frequency, one that aligns you with the very heart of creation. Think of the ancient teachers. They did not bow because the gods needed praise. They bowed because the act of gratitude lifted them into a higher vibration. In the Hermetic tradition, gratitude was the final step in prayer, the seal that locked the vibration into place. In our own time, modern psychology confirms the same. When a person practices gratitude daily, the brain rewires, stress diminishes, joy increases, and the nervous system begins to rest in harmony. Science now echoes what mystics knew. All along, gratitude is vibrational activation. Imagine giving thanks as if it were already done. You wake up and whisper, "Thank you for the abundance already surrounding me." You sit at a simple meal and say, "Thank you for this provision, small or great." You look at a challenge and breathe, "Thank you for the lesson it carries." Each time you do this, you step into the kingdom. The ancients described a state where reality bends to meet the vibration of fulfillment. The paradox is striking. The more you give thanks for what you already have, the more appears to be thankful for. This is not coincidence, nor blind optimism. It is law. Gratitude tunes you to the frequency of completion, and once you are there, the universe reflects that completion back. What once seemed out of reach begins to flow toward you with less resistance. And there is something sacred in this. Gratitude softens the heart. It transforms prayer from a desperate plea into a song of reverence. In that song, you no longer feel separate from the divine. You remember you are part of it. You realize that life has been responding to you all along, waiting for the moment you would align not through struggle, but through thanksgiving. To live in gratitude is to step into the highest level of metaphysical prayer. At this level, you do not need elaborate rituals or hidden words. A single breath, a single moment of sincere thanks, carries the same power as any ancient chant. Gratitude is the vibration that turns life itself into a temple. So pause, even now, and let your heart whisper its thanks, not for what is coming, but for what already is. Feel how that changes your body, your breath, your mind. In that stillness, you are entering the kingdom. You are no longer asking for the universe to obey. You are realizing it always has, and gratitude is the key that finally lets you see it. In the end, prayer was never about convincing a distant power to grant your wish. It was always about remembering who you are, a being already connected to the source, already carrying the kingdom within. The true secret of Thoth's metaphysical prayer is not about reaching outward, but awakening inward. So declare it now, not tomorrow, not someday. Say with me, I am already there, I am already whole, I am already answered. When we affirm this together, we create more than words. We create a living vibration, a shared ritual across time and space. I invite you to write it below in the comments. I declare it's already mine. Let this be our collective prayer, echoing as a chorus that no algorithm, no distance, no doubt can silence.